So, everyone, finally we'll get our test. Freedom is the reward of victory, beyond the usual, of course. Our hope to return to our homes one day rests on our shields and swords, as we throw off the menace that has kennelled us up in this cesspit like dogs. Finally, fresh air and revenge. Hard to spit at that, eh? We'll crush the bearded worms, and maybe then we'll be able to make something of this place. Wouldn't hurt to bag a few slaves for our retirement, would it? Need I even say that our mastery of the battlefield is but a moment away? Sassanids. They were many, now they are few, and yet all the adversity hasn't made them any stronger. That is a Roman trait only, it seems. Good then, for an easy day lies ahead. Exercise, feasting, and songs. It was like this all the time, back in the early days, in the Republic. We'll be living a dream. A dream indeed. Funny how it all falls into place, isn't it? Well then, you all know what to do. Carry on. Hello there, it's time for episode 50 of Fields of Mars. So last time our peace that we got with the Sassanid Empire didn't last too long, firstly because we broke it to fight with Aaron, thus giving us something to do, and then inevitably after a few turns they declared war on us once again, so we were back at it, although this time we were more ready for them with lots of armies on the front line. Things went pretty well, and we immediately wiped out 2 armies on the River Nile and pushed the front line forwards, even capturing the Sassanid capital, which we're now going to sit in and occupy, laughing at them from within. But first, we've got lots of action around Nova Trajana Bostra, tons of enemy armies to clean up, and we're just starting on the first one with this Sally battle. We've got the enemy sandwiched with an army from the north and south. The southern one, under Eutropius, is going to have an easier time of it because only some of the enemy came over to actually fight us, including these armoured camels, and they had a lot of trouble due to our missile fire. We took out the enemy's oranges at the start, as we saw in the little cutscene, and we took out their reinforcement oranges as they came onto the field, so that's all well and good. We managed to drive back those camels because we just killed so many of them before they arrived, but then sneaking in behind them were some cataphracts. They didn't make a very good charge and will now be killed there. These units are really just facing our entire army, so there's not much they can do. The main part of the fight's happening over here, where our northern army is going to face 1.5 enemy armies because so much stuff came up to fight on this front. They're trying to break through our legionaries with their heavy cavalry and cataphracts. Not quite working out, we're able to resist them there, that's good, but on our left flank, things getting quite a lot messier. They've got so many cavalry units here that they're just folding again and again, and making me extend my echelon. Luckily I had all these reserve units I could use to form extra barriers to stop them getting around behind the rest of our army. It seemed to work thanks to stationary testudo formations blocking the enemy's charges, but then in the ensuing melee, we can't necessarily hold. There our spear cohort having a hard time. The spear cohort always seem to have a hard time. I think they're just not quite as good as advertised. And of course, at the same time as all that, they've got infinite skirmishers attacking our front line, so we're just immobilized by that, giving them plenty of opportunities to bring in these elephants to come and smash against our legionaries. We've got quite a lot of ranged units, so we can try and use them to take down the elephants. I killed a few of them using a ballista before they arrived. They stampede through their own troops, which doesn't do anything, unfortunately for us, and then they stampede through our troops, which does do something. Luckily the legionaries are armoured, so some of them survive getting stampeded through, and the ones who come right through are easy targets for these archers back here. And now after that they'll just have to fire into our own ranks to try and bring down those elephants, because legionaries in melee won't be very good against them. The struggle on our left flank started to turn. I just deployed all of my cavalry into it, and we were able to defeat some of their cavalry as a result. So that's going to free up some room to maneuver, and we can finish off the rest of the cavalry on that front, and things will end up being okay. The front line's looking alright as well. The enemy's low quality infantry wasn't making much progress, and although their elephant charge had opened up a hole in the line, I had reserve units to put in that hole to make sure they couldn't do any real damage. And there's the last of their elephants just going right down. I think it's just the ranged fire going over the heads of all our men that's cutting those elephants down. On the balance bar, you can see we actually have a big advantage at this point. We are technically winning. It just doesn't quite seem like that because all of our forces are over here not doing anything. Although the enemy general did come to fight our second army all on his own. That didn't work. He did delay my left flank from advancing, but then his death is going to have a bigger impact on the battle than my left flank advancing probably would have. So that was the wrong choice. Makes it nice and easy to clear up our left flank completely, and the infantry fighting on the front line won't last all that long after that as well. It is going to leave plenty of skirmishers, which are going to be a bit annoying to take down. Here I tried to defeat some enemy slingers using camels, and it just didn't work. We just weren't damaging them. I think these Armenian slingers are decent in melee, like the Kurdish archers we've seen the Sassanids deploy in the past. So it just wasn't happening, but with our whole army prepared to face the enemy, they can't possibly win, especially thanks to our good old Testudo just blocking all of their attacks right now. Eventually our second army comes in and starts doing some damage on the back. We can take out all the foot skirmishing units easily enough. The mounted skirmish units are going to be more difficult because we can't force them to engage with us. We can just distract them and try and come up behind with our own foot skirmishers to cut them down, although the distraction wasn't quite working because we had the problem where the stationary testudo didn't work in this battle and we started losing men. I'm sure it's something to do with the exact angle. In some of the Total War games, your shield doesn't count as defending you on the right, and I guess the angle at which it's interpreting what a shot from the right is being very generous, because it looked like those shots were effectively hitting the front. But anyway, we were saved from fighting with the crossbow cav because they all just routed away once I got close to them. So that was the end of that. A pretty good start at taking down all those annoying armies.
What? Eutropius fought in the battle. I ordered him to Antiochia. Half the enemy force is at Trajana. That idiot boy. He doesn't care about this chance I'm trying to give him. I need an heir to make... Look, we'll have to cancel the voyage to Rome. We'll take the ships and head to Myra, then march for Trajana with all haste. We have to arrive before something happens to him. If it's not the Sassanids, it'll be that toga fetishist Paullus. The Senate can use him to stop me. I'm gonna send that boy to sit in the deepest chamber of some inaccessible temple where he can wait for me to sort his life out for him. He could be dead already. Hurry up, get going. Prepare the men now. We're leaving tonight.
We got most of them by the looks of things. No full units lost on our side, even the ones that were under a lot of pressure, like the spear cohort as usual. So there we go. Those guys are going to run away, and the Lakhmid army to the north that was in the city's zone of control is forced back a little bit as well. We'll still have to deal with those two armies up there, but first I'm going to finish off these other armies. We want to deny all of these units from the enemy, since if they do run away, they'll just regenerate and come back. So might as well do that now. Now once that was sorted, I realised I could actually split our armies up and defend 2 of the local settlements, so that's nice, but of course we can't get all of them. There's still more settlements to the north they can attack with no defences at all. Really, that's just going to be the problem we have on this war front, limited resources to defend our weirdly shaped front line. Now I noticed that the Western Roman Empire were having a pretty good time against the Garamantians, and it looked like they were about to take Carthage as well, going to finally push them out of Western Africa. So I wanted to try and help out. I did have some forces nearby. They were just maintaining public order, but thanks to all of our reforms recently, we don't need to do that so much. So instead, I'm going to bring them down to be near Carthage, because if there's an assault coming up, we can add our forces to the mix. Now the Sassanids north of Trajana do just move to attack one of our undefended settlements. Not really anything we can do here, we don't have enough stuff to stop them. It's a fight where if you found enough exploits it might be possible to win somehow, but without scout equites it's pretty hard to get the exploits you need to take down much bigger forces. So we'll just let them win. That's a decisive defeat. The enemy lost nothing effectively, but they did only sack the location, so we don't have to take it back. The Garamantians weren't so distracted by the fact they're being invaded by the Western Roman Empire as I thought they would be. They do manage to find all of this stuff to come out and stop my tiny little naval invasion. So fine, I just started to run away, but they are going to chase me down. Luckily enough, chasing me into the docks at Carolus, that means we have quite a lot of stuff coming out to reinforce in this fight. We've got a garrison which is pretty much the same size as the transport fleet we already had, plus a garrison of naval ships. That means our navy's kind of the same size as theirs. With all that, I was able to auto-resolve my way to a victory. I don't think I actually would have won if I fought it myself, because historically I've been pretty bad at trying to fight naval battles, especially when the enemy have tons of catapult ships, which is what their navy had, because they're just very hard to micro against. So with that done, we've probably helped the Western Roman Empire, so that's nice. We've distracted the Garamantians from defending themselves. I'm going to take down those Sassanids who are attacking us, and this is just going to be another stack wipe situation. I sent 2 armies to fight their one, and a little garrison came in to help as well. Balance battle wasn't all that far in our favour, so I am going to drop the quick save, just in case it's a disaster. But I didn't want to bother fighting this one, just wanted to get it over with and go back to the front line. We're starting to gain some momentum now, because once we've cleared up everything around here, we can actually go after the Lakhmids, who are to our southeast. And if we can defeat the Lakhmids, we'll have 4 or so armies hitting the Sassanids' war front, and may be able to just push the Sassanids out. So that's our strategic objective, to win the war. Going to take us quite a long time to do it, and still lots of battles along the way. But that's the plan, and now we can go back to defending our settlements there, ready for that to happen. I pushed north from Stephifon with Verus and Initius. This is just to take down some minor settlement that I ignored on the way in. We walked straight past it to go and take the Sassanid capital, but that just gives us an extra region in Azoristan, the province we're trying to take here. So that's easy enough, no problems there. I am going to leave our 2 forces split up though, since occupying one of them uses all your movement points, so hopefully no big attacks will come in to exploit that. We can see some Aryan forces moving into Anatolia. They've got 2 armies that look like they're going to sneak through this route towards Melitene, and we can't really stop them, or at least we can't stop them from attacking something. We don't have enough armies to make all of the places they could attack on the front line be defended, similar to the problems we're having elsewhere, of course. So I ended up doing nothing there just to see what they would do. Now, as mentioned earlier, we need Septimus to go and reel in his son from the front line, and also we could use his forces since we are lacking, but there's going to be a tiny bit of a detour before he moves out, because I noticed there's an enemy army sitting in the Mediterranean, and I've sent my main fleet to bring it down. It's an army in transport ships, so they have no chance, and I was just moving Septimus in to give us that absolute balance bar advantage. That would just allow us to win the battle without any losses effectively. Since our fleet was a tiny bit damaged already, it'd be nice to avoid that. And ships take an extremely long time to replenish their crews. It's actually much faster to get rid of the ships and just buy them again later, but I couldn't be bothered. So we'll send those guys back to Alexandria in a moment, and Septimus is going to start heading back to land in order to walk to the front line, because for some reason, as we've seen in a previous episode, it's much faster to walk than to sail. Now, the Aryan forces actually don't go west into Anatolia like it looks like they were going to. They come south and are able to attack Nisibis, and there's not much we can do to stop them. It's a really small army, but our garrison's even smaller. We've got like 100 men. Possibly there would have been an exploit way to win that battle as well, but I decided not to try, just to keep things moving. So we take the loss, and yet again they don't take the settlement, they don't occupy it. That means we don't have to work to take it back, and of course next turn we just come over and attack that force with a bigger army, and because they're trying to invade us with barely any troops, those troops are going to be doomed once they meet any resistance, which is right now. They tried to escape by running around the settlement. We can actually run through the settlement for free since it doesn't cost any movement points and take them down. We get the very nice classic janky animation where it stabs their head off, one of the several weird animations added with the Blood and Gore DLC pack. So there we go, we've left more places undefended, but that's just the status quo. Now, I was wondering why the Sassanids hadn't really counterattacked us and tried to take back their capital, so I've sent this spy to go and try and find out where all their armies are. They're actually nearby, they're just standing around in a region that's also in the same province. I guess they're waiting to build up more things before they do something, but at least we know where they are and can keep an eye on them. More action now for Eutropius and Paullus, because I realised we can actually kick the Lakhmids out of Isla to the south, and this is the final region in the province of Palaestinea, so taking this would actually be quite useful to help maintain public order. There is an army inside, but I'm just going to auto-resolve those guys out of existence. It's just some trash units in there. It tends to be that all of the puppets of the Sassanids do have the terrible armies you might expect, but the Sassanids themselves have managed to somehow get the money to field all of their elite cataphract armies, and they don't tend to use low-quality infantry, which is a shame, but at least it makes it easy for us to kill these other little states. So we take Ayla, that's going to complete our province, and it also stops the enemy having access to the Red Sea, which is going to be nice for securing Berenike down to the southwest as well. So some good work there. The Sassanids clearly made themselves very comfortable here. The nobles and people alike seem to be happier than those we cultivate ourselves. I write only of principle, in truth, for they are rather unhappy that I am sitting on thrones meant for the descendants of gods and such. From what I hear, my father would have fit right in. The men won't stop talking about him. He was some form of legend in military circles, even among the enemy. It didn't do him any good, I take it, given the modesty of the estate he built for his family. I am grateful, though, for the lack of publicity myself, for it is hard to argue that I retain the powers of proconsul legally. I'm not sure the office is even going to be recognized anymore. Maybe the Magister is waiting for me to die to settle the issue. We're now ready to start heading east out of Palaestinea to go after the Lakhmids' last settlement. This will be good. We can actually take out one of the factions that the Sassanids keep sending against us. So we'll put them under siege. They've got a full army in their final settlement, and they've got some more around the place as well, which might come in to reinforce. We've got our two armies here though, so it's a pretty powerful force. They're both taking integrity losses right now because they walked through a patch of attrition to get here, which is annoying, but ultimately of no consequence whatsoever. I don't know why I even bring it up. I'm just going to leave that siege going to see if they sally, because that'll be easier than making an assault, just so the towers aren't involved. And Septimus is now going to be able to make his way to near the front line. At least he can move up to a position wherefrom he can then move south to go and try to find his lost son and bring him back into the fold. The Western Roman Empire's campaign against the Garamantians seems to have made some forward progress here. They've taken Hadrumetum, they've got Carthage under siege. I thought that this time maybe we can actually move out without it being a military disaster, so we'll go and try to help them just so we can say that we were there. On the way, there is a Garamantian army in transport ships, and we can destroy them, so that'll make life easier for everyone involved. This battle was super easy, so I auto-resolved it on protective stance because we had all of the catapult ships. I presumed that would just simulate our catapult ships sinking all of the enemy, but for whatever reason we lost our ramming ships, so I guess we didn't use the protective strategy in the end. We went and attacked them. I think if I'd done that one myself, he would have won without any losses whatsoever, so that's a little bit annoying. Anyway, we come in to start a naval blockade at Carthage. We're reinforcing the main army attacking from land. It looks like a pretty decent army for the Western Roman Empire with their new inferior technology, that is. But I can't attack right now because I think if I start a naval assault, all of the Western Roman Empire siege equipment would disappear. I had that problem in Rome too, at least, and I think it still works like that in Attila. So I had to leave it and wait for them to attack to get that fight going. There was a little nope moment where I was going to send Varus to attack Aria just to try and dissuade them from attacking me, but seeing they had a full stack on their border, I decided not to. And we probably would have won if we actually made the attack, but we don't want to have any of our frontline armies be damaged, so we don't want to fight fights we don't need to, even if we'll win, because we'll probably not be in prime condition for the inevitable multi-stack invasion that would come back the other way. Now, while we've got Paullus and Eutropius away from the positions they're meant to be defending, we're pretty vulnerable to things like this happening, where the enemy can just come in and attack all of these unguarded settlements. Most of these settlements we've been taking haven't been converted over into the Roman style. That means they have virtually no garrison, and even small armies can just take them. I say take them, it's sacking in this case, as it seems to have been quite a lot recently. They're going to actually move on to do the same to another settlement, and once again we can't stop them, so they're just going to sack this one as well. It seems the AI is very obsessed with sacking settlements. I'm not quite sure because it seems to be allowing us to lose battle after battle in this war without actually losing anything. Like, all the territorial gains have been for us, even though we've lost the majority of the fights in the war. So I think the AI is shooting itself in the foot a little bit. And here comes another one. It's Atropatane this time, coming into some even more recently acquired territory, and we can't stop them once again. We'll just let them sack it. If they'd been occupying all of these places, we would have to turn our armies back. This would be a pretty big problem. It'd probably cause lots of rebellions in the places we still had as well. So I don't know why they're not doing it. It just seems very disproportionate, the AI. So that was that. We'll have to get back into our turn and start working to overturn all of these new issues. First, Atropatane, no problem. We can just bring Initius up from Stephifon, and they run away, running through attrition, which is nice, but they run away to a point on the other side of a mountain, which is going to be annoying to pursue, so I'm not going to bother. That does mean they could just come and attack us again, but we just can't solve that problem until we have a lot more money, essentially, and as you can see, we're actually losing money right now, so that's not going to be any time soon. We need to just somehow work with what we've got, even though it clearly isn't enough. Septimus can come down here, though, to take out the army that was attacking Tyros earlier. Since we were going this direction anyway, it's kind of convenient that everything happened as it did. The enemy army, I thought, was going to give us a fair fight here, because it's a one-on-one army duel, but the enemy's army was so bad that our balance bar presence was just overwhelming. I guess all those spearmen aren't particularly good. I think they're just some generic tier 1 spears, actually. So that's no problem. We will auto-resolve them to death, using a night attack just to make it all the more scary. I don't know if night attack actually changes auto-resolves. In regular battles, it gives the enemy a morale penalty just across the board, which makes it a bit easier to win, even if everything else is the same as a day battle. But maybe that factors into auto-resolves as well, I don't know. So now we're actually going to make this attack on the Lakhmids. We're going to do it ourselves because we've got lots of siege equipment and lots of ranged weapons. So if they're in a settlement, we might be able to arrange this battle to go in a very favourable way. We might be able to wipe the enemy out without any real fighting.
This is going to be the death of all of us. Why is he holding us back? We've lost all of our forward momentum. That was how we saved the Empire. We just kept going and going, attacking and attacking where it didn't even seem possible, and we won. It's like the Magister hasn't even read his own father's campaign diaries. You'd think it would be the law that you had to prove you've read them before you can issue a single command. I need to get my authority back. Letting the man 1,000 miles away have total control is just... it leads to failures like this. We need the right to say, this frontier is undefendable, we need to attack them before they arrive. Say that now and it'll be nothing at best, and a damn court case at worst.
I deployed one army to the southeast of the town. The plan was to have them sit there while our reinforcements came on from the opposite side of the field. That would make it faster to set up for an attack on multiple parts of the town. While I was over here, I noticed this pleasant blue building and took a look at it just because I'd never seen that asset in Attila before. But anyway, what actually happened was the enemy all sallied out to attack me, as they seem to do quite a lot in these siege battles recently. And this left me in a pretty difficult situation, because now our reinforcements are as far away as they possibly could be, so the enemy have completely turned our plan around on us. So they have lots of light cavalry in this army, and many of them will just charge our front line. They're not particularly powerful, so they can't do all that much, but they do say that quantity has a quality all of its own, and we kind of see that happening. They can just surround us because they have so much stuff. Their line is way longer than ours, and I've had to stretch my men pretty thin to even have a chance of stopping them from just outflanking us everywhere. It's not quite working still, though. I managed to stop them on our right flank using our own cavalry, which are going to be better than theirs, so there's plenty of hope in that part of the battle. The front line going to be a mixed bag. They've got tons of stuff. None of it's particularly good, but there's plenty of it. On the left, things are looking particularly bad, though. All of this cavalry, including some armoured camel cataphracts style units, are annihilating our spearmen there, and that's the only unit we have defending the flank. We have no reserves because everything's in our long, thin front line, and the enemy are getting behind us and taking out our archers there. I tried to thin out what the enemy had attacking us on the front using a fire attack. There was lots of grass on the floor here, so it was kind of effective in places, but super dangerous. I only had the nerve to fire off one volley because we have a pretty good chance of killing our own men there. On the right, things looking up here as we push back enemy cavalry. There's still more out there. Plus, more units from our second army have arrived. The cavalry rushed forwards to join the battle, here joining the fight against camels. Not the best, but the enemy are weak from the fighting they've already been through, so we can take them down there. Some of their cavalry, though, managed to get behind us and took out our onagers. They didn't actually defeat the whole crew, but being attacked causes the crew to drop the siege pieces, and you have to micro it to put them back on. So even after the cavalry go off to do something else and probably get killed, the onagers are rendered ineffective until I cannot be distracted by everything else in the battle. So a pretty good tactic from the enemy. And they are now behind us. They're getting their heavy units into our archers. Not the best situation. They can also hit the back of our front line since our flank protection is just gone, and the legionaries are going to start taking casualties fast against this attack from all sides. It's a very nasty situation, but on the right, the opposite is true. We've cleared up everything, and these units can now be used to try and salvage things. We can fold them back in to start a new line in the middle of our second line of archers facing onto the left flank, so we can stop the enemy from completely rear flanking all of our front line with this move. And this proved to be very effective. Our units were better than theirs, so just coming in and sweeping all of their cavalry away was actually quite easy. It was a real mess. You can see it's just a blob formation that just pushed through and did the damage and killed quite a lot of enemies. You can see on the balance bar, we're completely winning this battle. It's just because most of our forces aren't involved in it yet again that it seems to be difficult. This unit of crossbows, which was firing into the enemy from behind, got really damaged by that volley of darts from these legionary defectors. It's basically troops from the Eastern Roman Empire that are still fighting on, but on the Sassanid side, we're going to take down those traitors. Now, you can see there's a mess forming over here. I'd ordered a few units of mine to go into the town. I thought, for whatever reason, there was an entrance on the north side of town. That's not the case, so instead they're trying to walk around the outside to get into it. And they've just collided with some enemies who are kind of doing the same thing but the other way around. And it's a big mess, but we have numerical advantage, so we can clear that up pretty soon once I get over there and micro it appropriately. Now the fight's going to start coming to an end because although the enemy have hit us hard, they've done a lot of damage, they just don't have enough stuff to finish us off, and we've been killing so many of them while they were doing that damage that really they're just out of options. Their general gets a pretty good rear charge on some of our legionaries there, but he's not going to last long. We can surround and kill him, and the other units are now isolated. We've got lots of ranged units left to take them down, and here they have their low quality melee infantry, their desert tribesmen, and they're just going to be annihilated as Eutropius leads the Praetorian Cav to rear attack them, and everything else is pressing from the front. All very good. The battle came down to just one guy over here. These guys wouldn't rout even with their whole unit dead, but a pretty impressive display from our legionaries to kill him, although they did kill one of our own troops at the same time. The guy next to him cheering there, perhaps he won a bet, I don't know. That's the end of the battle though. Everything went a lot worse than I expected. I was coming here for some kind of exploit victory where we won with basically no losses, but they inflicted a lot of damage against us. So we've learned a lesson there, but at least the strategic objective of taking the town and destroying the Lakhmids has been achieved. The most important military matters that faced the Empire were taking place further and further away from the Senate in Rome, and beyond the knowledge of the ceremonial Senate in Londinium. This made the collection of previous officers into the Magister Militum harder to detect and harder to object to. Septimus, commenting regularly that he was owed some reward for his contribution to the state, was happy to keep exploiting this opportunity. However, there was a downside to having the Empire be so narrowly focused on single conflicts through a single statesman. This was made clear by the fact Septimus had to spend as much effort exerting control as he did planning strategies, and then, clearer still, by the events of the following year. That's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and massive thanks as always to the OfficiallyDevin patrons. Our success against the Sassanids is going to be spoiled to some extent by a problem of our own making in the next episode of Fields of Mars.